Okay, we're recording. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Better Business Conversations. My name is Brittany Andresian, business success coach with Practice Better, and I'm joined today by Alyssa Coleman. So
Hey.
Alyssa is going to be telling us all about how to create a triple bottom line or freedom, income, and impact in our businesses. So welcome, Alyssa. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, so for those of you who are maybe not familiar with Alyssa, Alyssa is a productivity strategist for creative entrepreneurs and the founder of Your Most Profitable Quarter Yet. So Alyssa is a recovering procrastinator herself and became obsessed with figuring out how the Oprahs, the Beyoncés, and the Marie Forleos of the world were running their empires, staying creative, and making it all look so easy. So as soon as she figured this out, her business did a complete 180. Since then, she has mastered the exact process to take entrepreneurs from overworked and underslept to productive, profitable, and free. So I am going to turn this over to Alyssa. She is going to take us through how to create that triple bottom line. So we're going to turn it over to you, Alyssa.
Okay, let's do this. So I'm going to share my screen here. Awesome. Well, hey, I'm really excited to share this with you. It's something that I'm really passionate about, and it kind of blends a lot of, different areas of business that I really love. And so I'm excited to share it with you. So today I'm going to be talking about how to create a triple bottom line business. And in my case, I call that the freedom, income, and impact framework. And so let me share a little bit more about what that actually means and what that looks like. Hey, we already did my intro, but I do want to share with you that when I first started my business, I was a practicing nutritionist as well. And what I realized really quickly into running my practice, maybe not quick enough, was just how overworked I was and how much I was undervaluing my time when it came to running my business. I was, a self-proclaimed procrastinator. I just thought that that's like who I was going to be. I was just unproductive. And I realized that I was spending so much time behind my desk or with clients or working on protocols behind the scenes that I really didn't prioritize the whole reason I started my business in the first place. And I'm sure many of you can relate that like I wanted to work for myself so that I had location independence, time freedom, creative freedom, so that I was making an impact on people's lives. And I realized pretty quickly like, oh, I'm actually just working, more hours than I was as a waitress and like kind of being a crappier boss to myself than any of my other bosses were. And so this is when I really started to come back into this framework here that I'm going to share with you. So for those of you who haven't heard of the triple bottom line model before, it is an accounting framework. And basically what it entails is that most businesses measure their success based on one metric, which is how much money they're making based on the profitability of the business. The triple bottom line model is really for socially responsible businesses who say, you know what, we actually want to measure our the success of our company, not just by profit, but also by two other metrics, including people and profit. And so we really quickly incorporated this version of a triple bottom line into our business. And I wanted to share a little bit of that with you as well. So we asked ourselves like, okay, if we're not just measuring our business based on profitability, how are we incorporating having a true people bottom line in our business? And in my company, we do that in two ways, both internally and externally. So internally, we have a really like strong intention around making sure that everybody who works for our company, anybody who is either like a part of the team or even a freelancer or, someone that's working with us, are one, being paid a livable wage, obviously, and two, really enjoy working here. So this is about creating a great culture within your company. And I think especially as, when you're first starting out as a solopreneur, or maybe you just have like one or two hires, it's not something that we like, we usually focus on right away. And so I always try to help entrepreneurs like bring that back into focus. Like if you're looking to grow a big business, it is important to come back to those things. Like what kind of company do you want to create, right? And think about that with how you're like treating yourself as well. But that's a whole other self-care as an entrepreneur tangent, maybe for another day. And then externally, we invest in community, and you can do this in so many ways. In my company, we're Give Back Partners with an organization who invests in on-the-ground education of women and girls in Mozambique. They're a really great company. They're called 𝗕𝗲𝘁𝗁𝘂, if you're interested in finding out more about them, but that's what we do. And so that's how we invest in people. And then when it comes to planet, we do a couple really cool things. We plant trees based on how many programs we sell, as well as offsetting our emissions from travel if we're like flying for work and stuff like that. And so those are just a few ideas of how to incorporate the traditional triple bottom line model. And then of course, profit, which is self-explanatory. But this framework got me thinking as I was incorporating these things in my business. And as I mentioned before, like I was kind of overworking and not being extremely productive with my time, and really coming up against that, the edge of burnout. My adrenals were not pleased with me as an entrepreneur, and it got me wondering, what's my true definition of a thriving business? If we can switch our thinking from just having profit as our bottom line and include these two other metrics as well. For me, what is my version of, a successful business? What's the end goal if it's not just profit? Because, when I was feeling extremely burnt out and working, way too many hours, I was, I had clients, I was making a profit in my business, but I realized, okay, that's not actually the only reason we're here. And you guys, I'm sure, can relate to me. And so at this point, I settled on my own triple bottom line. And for me, the three things that I measure my success by are freedom and impact and income. So when it comes to freedom, to me, that looks like time freedom, location freedom, creative freedom within my business, and of course, financial freedom. Impact. This was, one of the biggest reasons that I started my business. And so the way that we do that is by what we call going wide and going deep. So wide, we create accessible trainings that like lots of people can get their hands on, or free trainings that are able to make an impact on people's lives, no matter what, no matter how much cash they have to invest. And deep as well. So we create deep transformative coaching or consulting or, programs that are really impactful for our clients. And that's like a main focus that we always try to come back to when we're like planning out our quarters, mapping out our years, and all, all that kind of thing. And then the third thing is income. And so again, this is like pretty self-explanatory, but this is not just the profitability of my business, but this is like, what do I take home? And in my case, I want both active income as well as passive income streams that support me being able to make an impact with free courses and programs and stuff like that, and also support my freedom, including time freedom and location independence. And so these are the three things that we really wanted to focus on when it came to like, what is success in our business? When we're measuring at the end of every quarter, okay, let's do our numbers. How did we do, in our profitability? But then we also come in and check in with our freedom as well as the impact that we're making. And we'll notice sometimes when we kind of get off track, maybe one quarter we have an incredible income generating quarter, but we realize like we didn't actually create that much accessible impact. And so we kind of restructure and look again for the next quarter of how we can balance this out, because it is about creating, creating impact in all three of those bottom lines. And so to me, one of my main, missions is running a productive business. I always bring everything back to being highly productive. And what that means in my case is figuring out exactly where you want to go, freedom, impact, and income, and then figuring out what's the most direct route to get there. So what I noticed pretty quickly is that running an online business, there are so many distractions, right? Oh, can you hear me okay? I just heard something weird, but maybe we're good.
We're good. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, what I noticed about running an online business, especially like now, is that there's so many distractions, whether it's on social media or even looking at other people's business models and all of these things. It's really easy to get distracted by like everything that you could do. You know, maybe you're like on Pinterest and you're suddenly thinking, okay, maybe I need to like up my Pinterest game. Or, you know, you're watching this and maybe you think like, maybe I should start doing webinars or like a YouTube strategy or something like that. It's really easy to get distracted by all of these things that you could do. And what productivity really means for us is actually just being laser focused on where we want to go and ignoring, like putting the blinders on and ignoring all of those other things. So I asked myself, what is a system that I can put into place in my business that allows me to improve all three bottom lines every single quarter? So of course, we're going to check in and like, you know, always see how we're doing in each one of those areas. But are there certain systems that we can put in place or that we can automate that allow us to almost guarantee every quarter we're going to be hitting each one of those targets? And so for those of you who are like here and using this, you know, the Practice Better tool, you are already, you know, systems people. So I have a feeling you're going to kind of like some of the things that we put into place. So what we figured out over many months is that what that looked like in order to hit all three of those bottom lines was something like this. The way that we were spending our time needed to be 15% in operations, 20% of our time in growth, 25% of our time in marketing, and 40% of our time in sales. And once we kind of figured this out, it was one of those things that was a bit of a shock, because I think for so many of us, we don't necessarily, like, you know, for those of you watching, I'd love to hear from you. Like, are you spending 40% of your time in sales or not? Because most of us and most entrepreneurs that I talk to are not spending 40% of their time there or 25% of their time in marketing. A lot of times we, you know, front load and end up spending a lot of time in this operations area or client delivery, or even in the growth phase or the growth section. And so this got me really interested in, what does this look like when I start breaking it down week by week? What do we need to be doing every single week in order to be spending the right amount of time in each one of these sectors, in order for me to have freedom, in order for us to make an impact with the company, and in order for us to have high profitability or bring home that income that we have as a goal, right? And if those are, you know, if you create similar triple bottom lines in your business to freedom, income, and impact, then these are some great areas to be spending your time to be really productive, hitting all three of those bottom lines. So what does that look like? I've based these, I've broken it down into a week, and I've based this on, I think, a 35-hour or a 30-hour work week. So you can see, but you know, you can, depending on how many hours you want to work per week, you can do your own percentages. So 40% of your time, or 12 hours a week out of a 30-hour work week, should be in sales. And like, I feel like this is one of those things that's really triggering for entrepreneurs. So let me break down what that actually looks like. So 40% of your time, you should be focusing on making offers to your community. So if you have a group of people who could come to free trainings or could come to, you know, a webinar that you're doing, or could book a free consult with you, or any of those things, you should really be focusing on making those offers. This also looks like offering discovery calls or taking discovery calls, or free consults, or whatever you call them in your business. This looks like hosting webinars, creating webinars, all of that stuff. This looks like speaking gigs, which generally turn into sales. This includes creating your launches or live launching certain programs that you have, or you know, maybe you're doing like a spring offer or something like that. The launches really should be a big portion of your week, as well as setting up and maintaining your automated sales systems. Super important, and this should really take up the bulk of your time if you want to hit those three, you know, those three metrics. The second most important and most time-consuming system that we really focus on is our marketing system. And so obviously that looks like, you know, most of us kind of know the marketing activities that we should be doing. Maybe we're not doing them as much as we want to. I find, especially with my clients who are, you know, in the health sector, we, for some reason, don't always love marketing as much as the other things, like, you know, the research or actually working with clients and stuff like that. But we find that spending 7.5 hours per week, approximately, if you're working a 30-hour week, is a great amount of time to really be focusing on marketing these things so that you can, one, create an impact, but also lead people to start working with you and create the income. So this looks like social media, this looks like content creation, this looks like live trainings that you could host, this looks like writing copy or sending emails to your community, and creating and designing marketing materials that maybe you want to send out or share with people, as well as any advertising. So if you're running Facebook ads or Pinterest ads or Google ads, Instagram ads, whatever, any type of advertising, this is a great thing to be focusing 25% of your time on. The next section that we focus on is growth. And so this is super, super important, and something that I kind of neglected for a while. I actually enjoyed marketing and I enjoyed the operations, but I noticed growth and sales were areas that I would always put on the back burner. So ask yourself, like, which one of these areas do I tend to avoid? So for us, growth looks like automated growth systems. So these are the things that capture leads, bring them into your business, allow them to go through a pipeline or to go through a sales funnel in some way. Any type of lead generation. So getting yourself out in front of new leads, people who don't know you, as well as sales funnels and any type of networking. All of these are really great for growth, and you should be spending 6 hours a week in that area if you want to hit this weekly breakdown. And the last thing is operations. This is the thing that I find most entrepreneurs don't have a problem doing, and actually are spending too much time in this area. So about 4.5 hours per week should be spent in the operations section. And so this looks like having team meetings, any type of admin tasks that we all have to do, unfortunately. Accounting, unfortunately, maybe some of you like that. But this also includes things like service delivery. And so this is where I had to take a really hard look at the way that I was structuring my business, because I was spending much more than 4.5 hours per week working with clients. And so I had to ask myself, how can I create a scalable business model if I only want to be spending 15% of my time actually delivering programs, services, or consultations? Could I, leverage group models? Are there other areas where I can start sending people to passive products or passive income? And so depending on where you are right now, you might be thinking, well, actually 30% of my week is working with clients. And so that's okay. And the other thing is you can have your team helping you with other areas, the sales, marketing, and growth areas. If you really want to be focused mainly in the operations area, that's great too. But just make sure your business overall is hitting all of these areas in something close to these proportions, and maybe ask yourself, do I always want to be 30% in service delivery and operations, or do I want to slowly start moving toward closer and closer to 15? This also includes things like program development, making sure that your client care and client experience are really great. So whatever that looks like for you on the back end, as well as any onboarding and offboarding, which you guys probably all have automated. This is the weekly breakdown, and this is what we generally try to focus on every single week. And not only are we spending, these many hours that I kind of shared with you at the bottom of this slide here, every single week, but we also try to find a way to hit each one of those areas actively once per day. So we found that by taking an hour a day to find a way to figure out how can we make an offer to our community, how can we grow our community by at least one person today, and how can we find a way to make an impact or really nourish that community that's already there. How can we find a way to do that actively in under an hour? And we find when we do that, we actually have, even greater impact than we do just breaking it out over the whole week. So this is something that we do daily, and I won't get into exactly how we do that every day, but I created this little workbook for you guys as well if you want to grab it and see what we do in that 1 hour. But it's pretty close to what you see in this weekly breakdown. So ask yourself, if I was just going to do one little thing in the morning to hit each one of these areas, what would it be? And we find that super, super impactful. And so this is really truly how we create that triple bottom line model. And my question for you is, what does that look like to you? what does success look like in your business? If you were to create a true bottom line for you in your business, what would it be? Of course, it's going to include profitability or your income, but what else would it include? Is, independence a really big bottom line for you? Is creativity a really big bottom line for you? What are the things that you really believe in when it comes to running a business? What's the purpose of having this business model? And how can you make sure that every part of your business, both systematically as well as actively, works towards creating that bottom line for you? That's the question of the day.
All right, that was amazing. Thank you so much for running us through that. So much of that resonated with me. I have to tell you a little mini story of my own, that when I was first starting out as a practitioner, without like any kind of knowing each other, anything, I always kept a sticky note on my desk, and I had written on there freedom of location, time, and money. Ooh. And that was like my big three. So kind of coming back to this talk and hearing the way that you've structured this and outlined it, it really kind of picked up that fire back in me, has kind of like reminded me of my why. And I love how this model that you're sharing with us, kind of how you spoke about at the end, can really be made specific to anyone. And it really just comes down to your values and what's most important to you, and knowing that there's just more to the story than just profit. Because at the end of the day, we could all go and get a job at a corporation or an office,
get a paycheck,
and make a paycheck and have that steady, income. And none of us are here for that. I'm guessing, when we're running our own business. So yeah, I love that.
That's really cool is like, this is so independent on you. And so like, I've worked with clients who, have a practice, but then also have always had this passion that they want to write a book, And so if that's the thing that you want to do, being full with clients for like, every single day with no time for you to write, yeah, you might have a full practice and like that's success, but the model of success for you is also writing that book. So for you, your whole metric is going to be finding ways to carve out time, finding ways to create, space for you to be creative or solitude or whatever you need to write a book. Or maybe somebody wants to like have a practice while also backpacking. So theirs needs to be really passive because they may be in the middle of nowhere with no Wi-Fi. So it is so dependent on your business, but it's about redefining what that really looks like to you.
Yeah, and I think just an important reminder for anybody watching is that when we're talking about these types of values, this doesn't negate the fact that we're all here to help people with their health and wellness. Like we're all still here for that. That's kind of the medium and the conduit that we chose, but it all kind of comes back to our internal desire as to why we wanted to kind of go out on our own. But for those, you did bring this up a couple of times, so maybe you can explain this for anybody who's kind of new to this concept, but can you maybe explain a little bit more about active and passive income for somebody who's brand new to that idea?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically what that means is there's a couple ways that you could, or a couple different ways that you could get paid. So you could be paid actively by someone to deliver a service. So they pay you and now you have, consults with them or sessions with them, or whatever it is, where you are basically getting paid for your time or for something that you have to, a protocol that you have to create or something like that. But there's also ways that you can get paid passively. So you could create or package, a meal plan or a specific, ebook or something like that, that you create once, becomes an asset in your business. And then you're driving people to purchase that product. And once it's purchased, there's really nothing to do on your end. Ideally, you have software that delivers that program, product, or, course or something like that to them. And it's really great to have a mix of both in your business, and the ratio will really depend on the type of business model that you have.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I really liked how you kind of set those sections up within your business, is that when we're talking about passive assets and things that you're creating this passive income from, there still is the need for marketing, right? There's still the need for sales. So that doesn't kind of get you off the hook with those things, but it allows you to kind of streamline your workflow in the sense that you're not recreating the wheel every single time you want to deliver your kind of expertise and method to a new client. So Yeah, I would love to hear too. As you're kind of talking, I got to thinking about some of those tasks that we inevitably put on the back burner because we just can't be bothered with them. For me, that's like accounting. It's just like does my head in.
Yep.
So what would your advice be for someone who's like they kind of know that they need to do it. They know that they need to set some time apart in their business for it, but they just like, it's such a grind for them. So what's your advice on outsourcing? Like, where does that fit into your systems or your kind of your time breakdown? Maybe some advice on when you know it's the right time to outsource and kind of knowing what to outsource.
Yeah. I always say like outsource before you think you're ready because I think especially, I don't know what it is, but as solopreneurs, we start to think like we have to do everything ourselves and you know how to do it and you want it done a specific way. And but once you start delegating, it's almost like addictive in a good way because you start to see like, oh, actually, there are really great people in every single area, and all of the tasks that I hate doing, there's somebody who actually loves doing them, does it better than me, and I get this time back. It can be scary in the beginning, but so I really like to recommend like hire someone as soon as it's possible in your budget. Hire someone for like a couple hours a week, like even if it's 2 hours a week, and then you can slowly start like, you know, adding more and more, and you probably will. But you're right. What I really love to do is I like to make a list of all the things that I like have to do in my business or choose to do, whatever, all the things I do on a weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis. And next to each one of those tasks, I write down DEA or D, which is delegate, eliminate, automate, or do. And so you slowly start to, like, as you go through each one of these tasks, put a little delegate on there if it's something that you either want to delegate right now or know that eventually you want to delegate. And you'll notice it's probably those things like accounting or the things that you just like really dread and you wish you could write eliminate, but like, you know, you have to do them. And then slowly start adding, you know, hours to a virtual assistant or hiring a bookkeeper or something like that for those tasks that you really know eventually I don't want to be doing these things. And I think someone could do them better probably.
Yeah, I think it's so easy to get caught up in this idea when you're just starting out as an entrepreneur that you have to reach this certain threshold of success, this quote unquote intangible idea of success before you can get to a point of outsourcing. Right. But yeah, I love the advice of just outsourcing before you think you're ready because
it will create income. Yes, it will create and here's the thing too, like you said, like if you keep putting on your to-do list, like accounting, and then like you don't do it, and then you put it on your list the next day and you put on the list, then you know what I mean? The next day, it creates this like to-do list dread that is such bad energy for your business. Like think about how much more productive and creative and inspired and like good work you could do if that wasn't even on your list. And so I find the sooner you delegate, the sooner you start to like be able to flourish in the areas that are in your zone of genius or whatever you want to call them. So yeah, like do it before you think you're ready. If you can afford like, you know, Whole Foods, like you can afford a VA for a couple hours a week. It's good for the soul.
Yeah. And honestly, there's something to be said about just like freeing up that mental space of having that rumination of like, oh, I have to do that thing. I have to do that thing. And it plays on your mind. And like you said, the distractions are rampant these days. Think of that as just another distraction. So
totally.
Great. Well, that was really incredible. For anyone who's wanting to get to know you a little bit more or see kind of further what you have to offer, where can people connect with you?
Yeah, for sure. So you can find me. My website is 𝗕𝗂𝐀𝗄𝗏. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's at 𝗕𝗂𝐀𝗄𝐏. And I'll send you the link for that guide that I created for you guys too. It's 𝗕𝗂𝐀𝗄𝗏/big. That's what it is.
Yeah, we'll have all links in the description of this video so that you can easily navigate over and find more Alyssa. All right.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks. This was great. I'll see you later.